Welcome to the Q&A of why you would want to do a course in Biodynamic Craniosacral Therapy. The course title that we have for the full foundation training is The Art, Science, and Spirituality of Biodynamic Craniosacral Therapy. And I created that title because I really do feel that the course that we're offering does provide for each of those elements. So in today's presentation, we're just going to take you through an overview of how we have refined our 19-month full foundation training. We've, of course, as everyone else, had to adapt our curriculum to the online needs during the pandemic. So in some ways, the last class where we were able to shift and adapt gave us some really great insights, not only to some of the possibilities of teaching this information online, but also how wonderful it can be to take some of the more meaty modules and break them up so that you can get little small digestible bits. So we're going to talk a little bit about how the program has changed and what we'll be doing for our 2021 and 2022 class to accommodate this new teaching style. And we're also going to just go through what does each module look like, what are the class requirements, and how you can have a better sense of if this is the right training for you. So our first module, and actually our first through third modules, are all modules that you can take a la carte. They're intended to be individual classes that you can take to see if this is the right training for you. When people take classes 1, 2, and 3, it really gives you a rich sense of the pacing and the content and the demands in some way of this course, and also how much you get from that investment, how much you receive. So in module 1, we're going to be covering safety, sensing, and sentience. So we're really going to delve into what makes a safe container. What does safety mean to you, and what does safety mean to me? We are also going to look at sensing. Many people already come to this course with a wonderful capacity to sense others. Oftentimes, it can be even sensing them more than they would necessarily always want. But we begin with our sensing to sense self, and to really start going inward and understanding how to sense when we're present, grounded, how to play with expanding our sense of awareness. And then eventually we get into the capacity to sense other at a negotiated distance, at a distance that is acceptable for both people. And part of this study when we begin is really to understand and appreciate and recognize the sentience in all beings. So by understanding basics of how we are all breathed by something called the breath of life, we get a chance to begin with a shared dialogue, a shared set of principles that we're going to investigate together over the 19 months. So in our second module, we're going to be covering what we call presence, pacing, and patterns. Presence is a quality. It's a way of being with someone. And we look at how to cultivate and hone our sense of presence with another being. Of course, that involves how to negotiate ourselves with that other being. And that very much dovetails into pacing. How can the pace that we set in our speaking, in our nonverbal language, how can that help create safety and create a more digestible experience for our partner? And with patterns, what we look at is actually some work from an osteopath that did a study called polarity therapy. And this is looking at the energetic map in the body, looking at the patterns that we know are lines of force, and helping to understand our own and widen our own understanding of the human energy system by learning these patterns. So that's the first few. The third is fulcrums, fields, and fluids. And in this course, we're going to be looking at how do things move in the body. What is a fulcrum? A fulcrum is basically a place around which movement happens. So we'll go through the variety of different fulcrums that we'll find in the human body and in the human system. We'll spend some time with the fields of the body. So how the body contains itself, how the boundaries of each of those fields is met by a horizontal fascia. So these transverse fibers create the diaphragms of the body. And lastly, we're going to cover fluids. So this is very much a fluidic work. And it requires not only that we orient to and understand the fluids of the body, such as the cerebrospinal fluid and its container, but it also beckons for us to shift into a more fluidic embodiment so that we can be soft and meet the body in that fluid way. So those are the first three. And as I mentioned before, these first three can be taken as standalone classes. Once we get through module 3, we will have finalized accepting students for the course. And beginning at the end of module 3, we are going to shift from in-class 4-day classes to a hybrid where we're going to be doing information online, preparing for the next module, and then we'll do 3 days in class together to work out the body work, the practical parts of those courses and of that coursework. So our 4th class is on stillness, strains, and states of balance. Stillness is really one of the core principles of this work. And it is a place from which the power, the energy, and the drive to our system originates. So we'll spend some time with stillness, how to cultivate stillness, why as a practitioner we might want to utilize stillness, and look at how that helps the body. We'll also spend some time looking at the natural way that the body organizes itself and learning the difference between the natural respiration of a body and the strains. Strains in the body are how the tissue, fluid, or energetic field are holding imbalances, how they're holding things that have not been digested in the system. So when we work with strains, what we're doing therapeutically is we're looking for where is a balance. How can we invite the body into a state of balance where it can recognize, process, digest, and reorganize around that strain being held. So it's a very full course, and there's a lot of wonderful information. Next, we will go to spending a little bit of time with the bones. You know, we try to layer in the anatomy so that we're in each course uncovering little bits of the anatomy, the principles, and the techniques. So in this module, we'll be working with what we call the cranial vault bones. Those are the bones on the top of the head. The cranial base bones, which make up the bottom of the cranial field. And we'll also look at how above is related to below by spending time with the pelvic bones. So this is going to give us a great structure, a great foundation to build upon in our next module. So the next module really looks at, from this bony place, how is the body formed? What's the architecture that has been laid down in a given person? We're all shaped by experiences and events, especially pre and perinatal experiences and events. So we will look at how the body holds itself, and we'll look at different ways for us to assess that and how to work with it. Ancillary patterns is about how the body can have compensatory patterning. So sometimes there's an origin, an original site of a particular shaping, but then all the pieces that are connected through that spider web of fascial tissue might also have to accommodate. So we'll look at the architecture of the system, we'll learn how to assess the system, and we'll look at the different ancillary patterns that can occur with these holding patterns. Then we'll move on to learning about midlines. There are 3 midlines, and by orienting to each of these midlines, which are basically energetic access points, we'll learn how to harness the power of them therapeutically. We'll learn how to orient to each one of them and why each one might have a different therapeutic relevance in different situations. We'll look at the overall motions and patterning of the body and how health looks and breathes. And we'll spend time specifically with membranes, really looking at the dural membranes in the head and the membranes throughout the body. So again, all of these are layering in parts of the whole that we need to understand as a craniosacral therapist. Then we'll be spending some time with the spine, stability and spaces. And as you might have noticed, we're having some amount of repetition. You know, we have spent some time with these areas before, but every time we revisit a territory, we're doing so through a different lens. So we're going to spend time with the very specific anatomy of the spine and how different sections of the spine are created, how their embryological origins affect their range of motion and their functioning in the whole body. We'll look at stability and how the pelvis and the lumbosacral area helps to provide stability, as well as how it holds the watery field of that unconscious basin where we have the root and water chakra and how that relates to our relational fields. We're also going to look at spaces. And in this way, when I speak of spaces, I mean what happens when the dura pulls apart from itself. What is created there are called venous sinuses. So we'll look at a protocol in craniosacral therapy that works with the spaces in between the dura in the brain and how that helps to clear out cerebrospinal fluid and blood. It's a very practical and functional protocol, and it's one of the few protocols that we have in biodynamics. Unlike some of the other dynamics, is really based in the idea that we yield to we listen to and take our cues from something called the inherent treatment plan. So even though it might be heavy throughout the course, we are layering in principles of biodynamics, and we're laying in that trust and cultivating that trust and that belief that the body knows how to lead us. As we are edging toward the finish line of the course, we're going to be spending some time with verbal skills. And as you can imagine, verbal skills are important throughout the course. And we will be modeling verbal skills, and we'll be speaking to some of them. But in this module, we really get a chance to take a look at the social nervous system. We get a chance to look a little bit at trauma-based healing and how to use verbal skills specifically when a system is hypo or hyper, and how to help support our clients through very particular verbal skills. We're also going to look at something called force vectors, which is a way that energy can get trapped in the body. It's similar to when we were working with the Fulcrums, but it's a bit broader. So again, we're going to read with and look at it through a different lens, getting more specific, more clear skills, and how to apply them. And the bulk of this class is based on the viscerocranium. So viscerocranium is separate from the neurocranium, which is where we've been. It's really the study of and working with the facial bones. So viscero, we take in things for our organs here. So the viscerocranium is a specialized look into how to work with the face and the facial bones. And then as we come toward the end of our class, we'll look at ontogeny. Ontogeny is really the study of how an organism is developed, its origin, and how we can have a broader lens. As we come toward the end of the class, we start really getting a panoramic view of the whole of our client and being able to understand the preconception, conception, pre and perinatal dynamics of our clients and of ourselves is a really critical part of becoming a therapist. In this module, we'll also spend time with all of the visceral organs. So we'll spend time with the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, spleen, large and small colon. We'll spend time with the reproductive organs, eliminative organs. So really taking some time in this area to make sure that we can relate to and really hear the energetic signature of each of the organs. And finally, we will end with the study of obstetrics, which is the mainstream way in our culture that babies are born. And we'll look at how birth can impact how birth, bonding, and attachment can impact our clients and ourselves. Finally, we will end with ignition. There are 3 main ignition points that help spark our energy and help make us really vital and present. We'll look at integration, how to integrate this training program, how to integrate sessions, how to integrate all that we've learned. And individuation really celebrates the fact that this training has a major goal, that each individual student finds their own way and their own relationship with this work. We are not interested in turning out cookie cutter versions of our teaching staff. We want you to find your way of relating and find your own special gifts in relationship to this work. And this module ends with our graduation celebration, which is always memorable and really beautiful. So we have gathered a few reflections from students that have graduated, and I just wanted to share some of the thoughts that they've had so that you can understand a little bit about what taking this training might mean. So this is from Christina, who says, the foundation training at Heartwaves Healing Institute for Biodynamic Craniosacral Therapy invites a breadth of topics while always holding a loving and compassionate space, ample for integration of what is being presented. One of my favorite aspects of this class has been the stress-free, pressure-off style of learning. It has healed me from the many times throughout my life where I was met with an opposing style. This has allowed the knowledge to flow naturally, paced to perfection. Mimi and the teaching staff allow for the impossible to be possible. It's more than just a learning of anatomy, physiology, spirituality, science. It's a self journey that is held in the most magnificent container. Individualized and yet created for the whole. I am beyond grateful. My whole life is transformed. Thank you. And this sort of sentiment of the life-changing capacity of this training is echoed over and over again by graduates. I'll read another reflection from Cam, who was in a recent class. She says, Mimi and the teaching staff go above and beyond to bring a unique and valuable learning experience to students. Mimi has incredible knowledge of this work and does whatever it takes to make sure each student gets the attention they need. I truly felt that my money was well spent and that each day was so rich with information and table exchanges. Lesson plans were laid out with amazing detail and organization, and Mimi made sure the day flowed well and covered what needed to be covered. Love Mimi's sweet, playful, and peaceful demeanor and her ability to have fun and encourage us to do the same along the way. I feel like it was a true gift to share this experience and learn from someone who is so passionate and excited about this work. And that is true. I really do love this work, and I feel honored to be able to bring it to the individuals who are ready. Our final testimonial is a reflection from our first graduating class, a gentleman named Francis, who loved this crystal so much, he would sort of lean his head into it. These are pictures from our journey space, the place where we teach. And Francis's reflection says, this training was wonderful in so many ways. Mimi and the teaching staff structured the course in a way that really reflected the principles of the material being taught. I loved the pace and adaptability of the training. I was able to absorb the material in a way that worked for me. This training changed me in ways that I continue to discover and deepen into. I feel such deep gratitude for having gone through this course, for the material, the teachers, the students, the classroom space, and the experience of this profound work. And I do think that one of the things that sets us apart is that we have an amazing teaching staff. My goal is to have a one-on-one mentor relationship so that every student has a graduate to work with in their exchanges. This really allows for, right from the very beginning, students to see examples of how to negotiate space, how to help clients be comfortable, how to foster conversations and find the language, which sometimes is hard with this kind of work. So as you can see, I have a page laid out for the calendar of 2021. And this is something that we want to be clear is a new lesson. We really learned from this last graduating class where we had to teach modules 8 through 11 online, just how rich that is, that we were actually able to slow down and take things week by week. So as you can see, modules 1 through 3 are between March and June. They are intended to be in-person 4-day classes. The classes run from 9:30 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon with a 1-hour lunch break. And they're intended to be shorter so that people are still refreshed at the end of the day. We'll have in-between classes, probably online. Some of that is going to be up to the needs of the students, and those would be on Wednesdays. If we and the environment can support in-person review days, I would like to do that. but this is what we have so far. As we all know these days, everything has to be determined. So we try to be really flexible with that. And then you can see modules 4 through 11. And as I mentioned, once we get through our third module, we will no longer be taking new students in. We have the capacity to take between 6 and 8 students. So we would love to have that clear by our third module. Modules 4 through 11 will be set in a way where we'll do about every other week. We'll sort of spoon feed just another little bit of information so you have time to get the information in. We'll be teaching you in modules 1, 2 through 3 how to do distance sessions. So not only will you be able to do the work at the tables, but you'll also be able to do it over the phone or over video, so that when we do this distance work of the online training, you'll be able still to practice. And one of the probably most exciting things that we found out from our experiment in 2020 is that the students were able to realize how wonderful distance work could be. And then the second year is 2022. We will be doing, again, the same sort of pacing of every other week or so. We'll be preparing for a module. I like to give folks things to read before the module and after the module. I like to give videos of anatomy, so I try to provide plenty of materials. We end up reading both volumes 1 and 2 of Franklin Sill's volumes on biodynamic craniosacral therapy. And those, including all the other paperwork and supplies for the class, are provided and included in the cost of the course. And as you can see, there are a few things that are due toward the end. We'll be having you do a case study where you track a particular student, a particular client over the course of 20 sessions and then write up what that experience was. It's one of the highlights of the course. It really allows people to track and to see the effects that this work have, which I think is very important to really understand the long-term and deep and the breadth of the effects that this work can have. We also have a written exam that is due. It is an open book test that is based on the community quizzes that we do, and it is it's comprehensive. Let's just say that it's a comprehensive review. And then we do also have some practical exams where you get a chance to do work on us, and we have a cranial nerve project. And I'm sure that sounds like a ton right now, but I will try to comfort you in saying that you get a lot of support and there's plenty of time. They're very long-term projects, and that you have a tutor working with you one-on-one to support you throughout. So maybe when in the next couple minutes, when we take some information, some questions, and get a little input from people that have taken the course, they can maybe put that into perspective, what they got out of it, how the pace was. This is a foundation training. This really is a professional training. So it is intended to be broad and deep, but it's also one of those things where you get out what you put in. So I think that you will find that the benefits of this investment are tenfold. So to conclude this slide presentation, you can see here the walkway coming up to our school. This is the journey space where we teach. It's a beautiful retreat area right down by the Potomac River. It's very beautiful. There's little salamanders running everywhere, and fairies out in the bushes and angels in the walkways. So it's a lot of fun. It's a very healing place. And a lot of people comment that going to class is a retreat, that being there is healing in and of itself. So in conclusion, I trust that some part of you already knows if this is the right time and the right place to continue your journey towards self-growth. And if so, if you make that choice, just know that there's a community of others like you ready to embark on this adventure with you so that we can all do this together. And we look very much forward, all of the teachers at Heartwaves Healing Institute look forward to welcoming you home to the Heartwaves family, if and when you decide that it's your turn.